I do believe that we're on. It is Friday afternoon, approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is Doc with Doc Ghetto Child, and my hero, George Boston Ranch. He's a man that does everything for our community. He's our activist. He's our news journalist. He's our newspaper. Brother Ryan is kind of like our all in all. He's here for everybody in this city. He goes out to the jails and he visits the people out there and the problems that they may have. He goes to the churches and he makes various speeches at different times on different occasions. He goes out with the NAACP and he stands and he gives out these very, very important speeches on issues, that's current issues that's involving our lives. I don't feel that Brother Ryan get the credit that he's due from any of us, from the degree that he should get it. Organizations have a tendency to utilize Brother Ryan's in all the fundamental concepts of the beginning, from the foundations of issues that they bring. But when they get in the heartbeat of their issues, they seem to push Brother Ryan to the side and overlook him, and they would grab some charismatic preacher or some dynamic speaker and put them in the spotlight because they're the head of a social organization. But they didn't do none of the footwork that was required to get them all there. I decided that I wanted to do an interview of my hero, my friend, my pal, and my blood brother, my spiritual brother, Brother Ryan. It is indeed an honor for me to be given this opportunity to interview you. And I must say that I haven't met many people like yourself. How and why do you do the things you do? And when we get to certain meetings, people, you have to always get up and make yourself to be known, as well known as you are amongst these people that seem as if they be wanting to overlook the fact that you was the fundamental foundation of the start of them taking the stand. How did that make you feel, man? What? Let's talk about it.
First of all, Brother Doc, I want to appreciate you, and everybody who watched this clip, I want you to know that I appreciate Doc Robinson. And I just came in a few minutes ago and he asked me, did I have my camera? He asked me would I consent to let him interview me, since I do it for everybody else. And of course I had to honor that because I love him just that much and I respect him even more. In trying to answer that question, it almost brings tears to my eyes, and the reason it is because I can't answer that question. I'm without words in that department. Personally, I feel that it's beyond me why people treat me the way that they do. I think that that is a divine calling that God put on my life, to be treated as the rejected stone among many precious stones. Perhaps in the eyes of those who push me to the background, see more precious stones than me. But at the same time, God have also allowed me to understand all the stones in the bucket. And therefore, I know that when the Master of Masters and the Creators of Creators come, he will pick the stone out that he wants. And so I do what I do, short form, to be among the stones that he may pick up, although many may push me to the side. The Bible tells us behind the law that the stone that the builder rejected have become the head stone of the corner. And so I think I was called for this, Doc, to be rejected and criticized. And I'm not criticizing anybody. I have state representatives and politicians and preachers and pastors and bishops. I've always been pushed to the side. And I guess, as you say, you asked me, how did I get this humility? I think I get this humility through traveling, not through, but in the tunnel of time. Because in traveling in the tunnel of time, these are things and obstacles I must face. If you notice, I said in the tunnel of time. I didn't say through the tunnel of time. As I travel in the tunnel of time with the hope of getting through the tunnel of time, I'm sure I'm going to go across and encounter a lot of more things. But getting back to your direct question, and I didn't want that to be a filler nor a roundabout answer. I'm going to get back on track. Short form is that I count it a privilege to be pushed to the side and disrespected and act as if though I'm of no value. I'm retired military, and I type commendation medals and discharge papers and achievement medals and airman performance reports for everybody. But one day, I walked into my boss, a lieutenant colonel, and I asked him a question. I say, sir, you know I'm worthy of a commendation medal. Why you never put me in for one? He said, Sergeant Rhymes, you deserve 3 commendation medals. He said, type it up. I typed it up, and I got my first one because I had to ask for it, while others get them because somebody else see that they're entitled to.
Wow.
Next question, my brother.
Well, you said something that is very, very deep, my brother. You mentioned the tunnel of time, and all of these things is trapped within that tunnel. And that tunnel of time, my God, that's a deep, 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 deep scenario that you gave out there. You gave me something a few days ago pertaining to that tunnel, because I heard you speak about this before. And I wrote a little something about it that I got from you pertaining to this subject. And any time that we hit off on that, I mean, I don't want to get away from some of the other things I want to ask you, but all of this is within the tunnel.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, and you was one of those pilgrims that traveling through the tunnel. And it's strange that our spirit should meet at the time we meet during the tunnel. So, I understand your answer to a certain degree. But what I don't understand that's yet mystifying to me is everybody call you, man. Everybody does. Didn't you go before city council and it was a white woman that teeth had got knocked out?
Yes, sir.
Barbara Park, way back. Didn't you get arrested one time?
Yeah, one of 15, yes, sir.
One of the 15.
Yes,
and didn't you serve as a high official in the NAACP?
I'm a former president of NAACP.
Well, now, see, this is in that tunnel. So, would you care to elaborate on when I met you? You know, back in 1994.
Yes, sir.
You know, and you was on the radio.
Yes, sir. And
I heard a very unique message. Someone that was speaking parallel to Farrakhan, but had a different tone and a different. You know, some people are critical of Farrakhan.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not talking about no critics. I'm talking about Farrakhan got in depth truth to his message.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have to credit my brother for that.
Yes, sir.
And when a man come along and speak such plain truth, and the way Farrakhan would say them and lay them out. Now I'm a Baptist preacher, okay, And I don't find the faults, but my point is, could you please, this is your interview, elaborate on who you are as far as when I met you in '94, and then I find that you was preaching the same thing about economics and the economy back in 1989.
Yes, sir. I was in the military, and I got here in Georgia in '75. And as I was telling the state president those other night over in Quitman, is that there was a Charles Demps, or one of the Demps brothers got shot over by the police officer, and I was out there on the street raising money and trying to get enough people to reactivate the charter in Lowndes County. That was in '75. '75, and I left here, and I was involved, in fact, I was involved with BCAG. That was way old civil rights organization, and locally. So anyway, when I came back from Germany in '89, I got on WGOV radio station with the Gospel John Herman Smith Sr. Then I went to WJEM. Once that station became open, the blacks owned it. I had to put my money with the black radio station rather than to the white station, because that's what I do.
Blacks only?
Yes, sir. Blacks own that station, so I had to come and join that station, and that's where I started spending my dollar with WJEM radio station, and that's where me and you was on the same station. But anyway, I started talking about keeping the black dollar in the neighborhood. And I started talking about if the Indians can come in our community, set up stores in our community, take our money to take care of their children and send it back over to India, then surely we should do likewise. I said we should not criticize whites for taking our money when we just give it to them. I said what we must do is reform the government and the Senate in our own head. And let us do what Jesus said. And Jesus said to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So that means one thing through my eyes, traveling in the tunnel of time. We must set up convenience stores in their community and take their money and bring it back into our community so we can build big churches, keep our children from committing crimes and breaking into convenience stores like they do by using the money that we give them. And so to me, I saw a greater concept of the teachings of Jesus. Now, going back to Louis Farrakhan, if I was on national TV, and this will be national because it's going to be on YouTube, and I say this, y'all look at me real closely, for you who hate Farrakhan, I am a product of Minister Louis Farrakhan.
All right.
When I came up from the sticks in South Georgia, I hated the fact that my skin was black. My lips was big. My nose was broad. And I didn't own and have what my white neighbors had. So I had an inferiority complex. My grandmother told me, you see a white woman walking on the right side of the street, you go to the left. If you see the white bus come by your house, get away from it, because they would throw bricks off and call you a lot of names. And so I endured that. But Minister Louis Farrakhan said this, and he quoted Elijah Muhammad. I studied from Elijah Muhammad too. And Elijah Muhammad said, when a man argues about who he is, or when he argues about his religion, or over his religion, it means one thing. He don't understand it himself. And so I began to study. And that's what I started doing. And Louis Farrakhan was a seed, because he told me to stop studying his story, which means the story of the Europeans, and start studying my own history.
I hear you. So that being said, we're going to have to conclude due to time that's within this tunnel.
Yes, sir.
And it was indeed a privilege and an honor. We have maybe another 45 seconds. Close it out, if you will.
Well, I just want to thank you for doing this. And I want to thank the people who listen to it, is that maybe one day we can get into a down what you call a nitty-gritty interview. There's so much inside of me until my brain is about to explode, but there's nothing that I can do but to give you the truth, and that's the thrust of my bust always. Brother Ryan, kvci.blogspot.com. Peace be unto you. May the creator ever shine in your presence. Bye-bye. We go. Yes, indeed, this is the Ghetto Free Press, and I'm George Boston Rhines. I'm standing on property over in Quitman, Brooks County, and in the state of Georgia. This once was known as Washington Street High School. This is the school that I graduated from in 1970. Then when integration came, that school went to a smaller middle school, and blacks moved to the white school, which was traditional throughout the South, and eventually the school was torn down. This is why it's so important for us as Americans to remember our history. For if our children came out here today and look around and they wouldn't see any markers, they wouldn't see anything that would give them the least impression that it once was an all-black segregated school that produced doctors, lawyers, generals, and other professionals. They wouldn't know nothing about how we got hand-me-down books from the white schools, and the whites was always ahead of us because they got the newest of books, and when the books became raggedy until the state could restore those books or replace those books,
We had to make do with what we had until the whites used them, and then, of course, we got them. But I want to bring this to your attention today, why it's so important for us not to forget our history. Oh, I've talked at a class reunion about putting a historic marker up here somewhere, so when we tell our children that this was an all-black school, our great-great-grandchildren, they would not call us a liar, but right now they would call us a liar for the most part because we didn't think enough to put something out here on these grounds. So that bothers me. But even more sickening is what bothers me is the fact that we turn our head on the Quitman 10+2 who remembers this school. They may not have graduated from this school, but they remember the school, and so they remember those educators that went to the white school, and those who probably wasn't just fired and let go because they couldn't find employment. But we ignore the value of the Quitman 10+2. You see, the education that we got here through segregation was a different type of education. We had educators who we know loved us. We had educators who understood the black flight and what we had to do in order to elevate to that white man's society and to be able to compete with him and go from 0 all the way up to 1,000 or 1,000,000, wherever we had to go to excel or do what we had to do. We were taught at that all-black school that we had to be 2 or 3 times as good as a white man in order to get the same paying job, and even then we may get fingers turned down on us. So we expected that. Many of young children don't know what's going on today. And so this is, again, let me repeat, so this again is why we must look up to the Quitman 10+2. Do you not know that they gave Brooks County the first majority on the Brooks County School Board of Education? And do you know that many black folk here in Quitman and Brooks County, they look down on the Quitman 10 as if though they committed some crime because they haven't done their homework to look at the historic archival record, nor have they sat in the courtrooms on these 2 trials that have been methodically forced upon Lula Smart, that the news media here in South Georgia have ignored. You don't know what happened at either one of those trials unless you was there, because no news media thought enough of you as an American to report the facts of those 2 trials. And so after Lula Smart was caught up in the second mistrial in April of this year, you don't know what I have put on YouTube. And you don't even know why I'm under a 379-day criminal trespass by Lowndes County Sheriff Department and possibly others unknown. Because as we were taught at Washington Street High School, never to sell our birthright. We were taught to be better than just a mathematician. We had to go the extra mile so we can sit back and watch the mathematician do what we already knew, but we kept our mouths shut because we wanted the job. And if we was better mathematicians than others, then we would even get the job when we were the masters of mathematics. And so we have to wake up today. We have to wake up to the new reality of now and understand, why is it that the news media in South Georgia don't sit in on those cases that are very important, that dealing with voting rights here in the state of Georgia? Why is it that the Democratic Party have not embraced the Quitman 10+2? Why is it that the Republican Party, the Green Party, the Independent Party haven't embraced the Quitman 10+2 if they are really concerned about voting rights? And so I am a Democrat. But I am not, let me repeat, I am not happy about the way the Democratic Party has treated the Quitman 10+2 here in Brooks County, who has done nothing wrong. And so now after the second mistrial, we all must ask a question. What question must we ask? We must ask, why did Governor Nathan Deal find it necessary to remove those 2 members from the Brooks County Board of Education by the swift of a pen, instead of letting them go through the process? Now it's been 3 years and 6 months pretty soon, and they still have not had their day in court, on trial, by a legitimate jury. Do you not know that the first trial of the Equipment 10+2 had 2 or 3 blacks on it, and that's all? And the second jury didn't have but 1 black on it? 1 black man. Isn't that something? And they had 1 Latino that could not understand English. They put 1 Latino who could not speak nor understand English, for the most part. Now ask me, how do I know? Channel 6 was not there every day. Channel 10 was not there every day. Channel 27 was not there every day. The Valdosta Daily Times was not there every day. No news media was there every day, but the Ghetto Free Press was. Just like the first mistrial, I was there. And if you go to Boston G.B.R. Equipment 10+2 playlist, you will see what you will never know unless you was in the courtroom. That's the game they play with us, you see. But thank God for Principal Robert C. Marshall and Mr. Rutherford over at the Booker T. Washington Elementary School. We must thank those black educators, because they took a stick and taught us how to write. They took a BB gun and taught us how to master the M16. Every time I picked up the M16 in the United States Armed Forces, I got marksmanship. Because they always told me, be certain of your target. There's no need of aiming if you're not certain of your target. And so we don't want to ever forget Washington Street High School, Booker T. Washington, and other schools throughout Brooks County. But above all, at this dispensation, we can't live in the past talking about a dream of Dr. King to hell or to heaven with that dream. What we must learn how to do is ream out from that dream to understand what others are dreaming and plotting against us as they did yesteryear. And so now, since it'll soon be 3 years that those 12 outstanding Brooks County citizens have been used as a tool of somebody, just like the ones in Madison was used as a tool for somebody. And it's not just here. That's the same thing that's applicable in many other counties in the state of Georgia. But you don't know about it because the news media control it, suppress it, snip it, and soundbite it, and you never get it. So now look, I am under a criminal trespass for violating no law. No law. And everybody of importance in the state of Georgia are aware of it. The NAACP, the SCLC, everybody, Jesse Jackson, Janice Mathis, they all know about my criminal trespass charge without justification or notification. Look, don't mean to skip around, but I'm pregnant and I'm trying to give birth so you can get your mind up, so you can bring your children up. I was brought up by this school that no longer exists here, but I am a product of Washington Street High School and the United States Armed Forces. Do you not know when I took the military entrance exam that I had to compete against white people who had the best of books, the best of schools, the best of education, the Catholic schools, and everybody? They didn't say because you was inferior, you went to inferior schools or a school that didn't have the newest of books. They didn't use that in the scenario. That was not even in the equation. But we competed from these schools and we held our own. And not only that, we were held back for hundreds of years, couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't speak our mother tongue, stripped of our religion, our name, our God, our ancestral heritage and self-pride that the black man had from the building of the pyramids in Egypt and King Khufu, the first one, our history. We don't know that Africa, the name of that continent, a European stamped that name on a continent and people, and he murdered black people. And so we talk about we are African American, we say that out of ignorance. And I'm not downing you for it, but when you learn better, you do better. And when you do better, then you act like the equipment 10 plus 2. You go out and do what needs to do. They said that they knew that often their voting, just that voting process just didn't tally up. See, we were taught real math here. We didn't know nothing about this new math. We learned the old math that 1 plus 1 equals 2. And 2 plus 2 equals 4, and that's the end of it. So we knew that something was happening. And so they chose to use absentee ballots because the old math had been kicked out the door. So when they voted by absentee ballot, they brought the old mathematics back where you can actually count what the deal is. And so when blacks became the majority on the Brooks County Board of Education, then Dr. Nancy Dennett became the superintendent of all people, all people, Board of Education members. As the president, she became over all of those board members as far as conducting the meetings. But she was in tune with the people in Brooks County. So as president of the Brooks County Board of Education, she became hot stuff in the minds of some people, I'm sure, who never wanted to see a majority on the Brooks County Board of Education. Now, as I close this out, Governor Deal removed 2 of them, and because they didn't go to court, he had to put them back on the board. Now we gotta ask, what did the G.B.R. had to do in this? Since you heard me say, because I walked the streets, voters say they was intimidated by the G.B.R., so we must question the G.B.R. The G.B.R. are not above questioning, especially when you got an 84-year-old woman in a little small town not far from here say she will never vote again. People living right across from my cousins over there say the lady was so scared she wouldn't even come out the house on the next election because of what the G.B.R. and the way they treated her. Intimidation. You don't know nothing about that, though. David Miller, the district attorney, David Miller was in office when Willie Jane Williams died in the Lowndes County Jail in 1998. And the rest is history. What part did Brad Shealy play in the Quitman 10 plus 2? I'm just asking questions. And since I served this country, and since I was born in this country, I have a right to ask these questions, and you as well. So even the attorney, Molohadi, whatever his name is, Mohalis, I can't pronounce it right. Sorry about that, a Washington Street educator, but some names just get me. But anyway, you know who he is. Why is the prosecution of the state of Georgia so consistent in talking about trying Lula Smart again? You already tried her twice. You get a mistrial every time. And yet, the Postmaster General of the United States of America never said nothing about the postal clerk who was mishandling absentee ballots in the post office. The Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp, haven't said nothing about the lady at the registrar's office who took ballots home to work on them. So they are setting a precedent saying to other registrars, if you want to, you can take ballots to your home, to your hotel, to your recreational resort and work on those ballots. You know, just work on the ballots. If the Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp, hasn't said nothing about that came out in the court case, how can that be? How can Eric Holder, the Civil Rights Division, not say nothing? Come on, y'all, get serious with me. Now, you all wondering why am I so persistent in what I'm doing? Because of God, because of Jesus, because of Muhammad, because of Jah, because of El Shaddai, because of Elohim, because of all these names of the prophets, priests, and kings who stood up on the side of right and righteousness. And so I am a product of Washington Street High School. I'm not the best that came through Washington Street High School, by the way, while I'm at it. But nobody came through Washington Street High School better than me. That I know. For we all are precious in God's sight. And so the question must be asked, what did the Attorney General Owens have to do with equipment 10+2? You see, you know, you've seen me talk about the black mayors in Meigs, Georgia, Davisboro, Georgia, Warrenton, Georgia, Gordon, Georgia, Dawson, Georgia. You hear me talk about them all the time. And I email the Justice Department. I emailed the Congressional Black Caucus. I emailed the NAACP. I emailed the SCLC. I even sent some to President Barack Obama, whether he get it or not. Why do I do this? Because as a graduate of Washington Street High School, an all-black school that educated me and gave an offshoot to the equipment 10+2, we cannot allow our children to have to repeat what we went through. And unless we stand up and tell the truth, our history and our news will be lost forever. Somebody got to do more than dip when they go to church, mosques, synagogue, and temples on these most holy days of worship, they say. You gotta do more than duplicate the life of Jesus. You gotta do more than imitate the life of Moses. You gotta do more than placate the life of Jah. Talking about you are this and you are that and you better than everybody else. But you can't get involved in on the issues that are stagnating your children and causing your children to do drugs and to kill each other and shoot each other down on the street like wild animals because they don't have the knowledge of self. They haven't been educated. They've been trained, but they haven't been educated. And there is a difference, you know. Washington Street High School taught me that. And so now, I don't care if nobody stand up with the Kendrick Johnson family. I'm going to be there with them until the end. I don't care if you don't stand up with the equipment 10+2. I started out at the beginning with them, and I'm going to stay with them. I don't care if nobody report on the black mayors, most of them female that having these major problems, while these black grown-up rusted behind black Negroes won't say nothing. I'm talking about those in the civil rights circles. I'm talking about the big dogs, the top dogs. They not embracing these black mayors in the state of Georgia who are catching pure hell, got to take money out of their own pockets to defend themselves against a system wherein council members are tied in with the attorney, and the attorney and those with the judges, and the judges in with somebody else. And we just watch our people get sent away to jails and prison. Many of them are not guilty. They are not guilty. The girls in Madison was not guilty. Some of them pleaded out, but some of them went all the way, and they won their cases. We plea bargain too much, and we don't support one another as we should. Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. Dr. King said, if a man haven't found something that he's willing to die for, then he's not fit to live. That's the education I got from Washington Street High School, this all-black segregated school wherein the teachers loved us and prepared us for the future and the hereafter. And so I could never turn my back on those educators that taught me. I could never turn my back on Washington Street High School. They was the best of educators. This was the best school. And I want to say at this juncture before I close, the worst thing that happened to the black race is when we integrated with white folks. We should have kept our own schools so we could have learned better the knowledge of self, about King Khufu, about the pre-Adamites, and our greatness, and our beauty in the eyes of our God, in the beauty of our God. We may not wear our own names. We wear the slave master's relatives' names, or a European name, or the colonial name. But once you get education in your head, as my grandmother said, only completed the 3rd grade of schooling, but she left me with this message. The name don't make the man, but the man makes the name. So we took the European names and we became the scholars. Booker T. Washington didn't have his African names. Don't know his ancestors he left in Africa when he was kidnapped, and nobody have ever been brought up on charges for kidnapping. But that's okay. We look at the greater scheme of things. Galatians 5 and 6. For God is not mocked, for whatsoever man sow, that shall he also reap. Jesus brought it home until we all can get it. And this is why I like the Quitman 10+2. 8:38, Jesus in the red writing says, for God is not mocked. No. Here's what he said. And ye shall know the truth, and that the truth shall set and make you free. We gotta stop living in fear. Don't bow down to no man, woman or beast. Bow down only to God. Let God be your protector. And though we suffer, and though we die, by the blood of the Lamb, we still gonna overcome. Because our spirit is gonna be recycled, and they're gonna have to fight that same spirit all over again. While their children, others, the wicked offsprings of the wicked, gonna continue to suffer after generation after generation after generation after generation. And if they never get it right, they're gonna be doomed to destruction, and it's gonna be of their own doing, not because we retaliated against them. So I thought I'd come out today and give you a little love and let you know. Quitman 10+2, we love you. And to Latasha that died, one of the Quitman 10+2, I believe that girl would have been alive today. I believe that by her being a lupus patient, the stress helped to kill her. And now the state of Georgia has got these people under additional stress. And somebody got to be called in on the carpet. It may be the governor of Nathan Deal. It may be some of these other names that I call. But eventually, the truth behind what they did to these outstanding citizens, most of them got college degrees, most of them professional people, most of them don't have no criminal record. They are the best of the best. And yet, they didn't forget the rest. They went out to the elderly and asked them, are you a registered voter? And if they were not, they helped register them. Then they followed up with an absentee ballot application. And then the rest is history. And that is that there's a hand behind the hand with a master plan that don't want you to be all that God have ordained you and destined you to be. That is the gymnasium of the Washington Street Wildcats. Used to be Wildcats on that building, but now, if you stand up, You can be the wildcat today, because most of us today have become nothing more than little putty cats, and we won't stand up for what is right in God's world. On behalf of Robert C. Marshall, principal of Washington Street High School, and to all those educators, black educators, that all-black school, we want to thank you. You gave us what we needed, and now it's time for us to return something back to your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, to let them know that you taught us well. This is George Valdosta, the Ghetto Free Press, doing what I'm doing because it must be done. I'm not going to say bye-bye, we're gone this time. I'll be back in a little bit.
God made mothers to be angels. You just might be looking at an angel right now. If you're in Los Angeles, California, Nashville, Tennessee, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Chicago, heaven must be around the corner. I see angels coming down the street. Heaven can't be too far from here. I see angels everywhere. Every mother is an angel. God made it that way. If you look around you, coming down every street in every city, you'll see nothing but angels. In Washington, D.C., South Carolina, or wherever you may be, heaven must be around the corner. I see angels coming down the street. And I look over there. Heaven can't be too far from here. I see angels everywhere. As I look around me, heaven must be, there's a mother over there, around the corner. I see angels coming down.
This is the Get To Free Press, and we report what others ignore. This is your First Amendment right to know without whiteouts from a controlled news media whiteout network. And we are located in Valdosta, Georgia, and we are here to inform, educate, and persuade if necessary. Always keep that in mind. Moreover, I want to say to you that as a community, state, nation, and world, we are not who we claim to be, but who we prove ourselves to be over a given period of time. And if we are a liar, time will tell. And if we are a racist or a hater,
time will tell. And our righteous and holy God already know. So you are only fooling yourselves. Again, the Ghetto Free Press. I'm George Foster Rice.